Okay, then let's start. My name is David. Probably if I do like that, you will know me better because I'm mostly the same of the profile picture. I'm the head of APIs at Shaper by Admira. Admira, it's a consulting firm, a Spanish consulting firm. We are mainly focused on big companies, big banks, big insurers, also their market, but I'm not going to sell anything here. That's not my intention. I would like to share with you my experience about the importance of API. One thing we have developed in Shaper is a framework to define framework. And this is what I'm going to talk about. I want you to be very aware of the importance of API governance in any API initiative and help you to do your own framework. You will find so many frameworks for API governance everywhere. My advice is build your own. Consider all of those, but build your own. Even don't use mine. I know mine is the best, of course, but don't use it. I think it's better to use mine. This is why what I have designed is a framework to define frameworks. This is what we really use in practice in our customers. We have a framework to define frameworks, so each time I go to, or not each time, but almost each time I go to a customer and we talk about API governance, and they ask me, do you have a framework, a methodology, or whatever that we can quickly reuse to reduce our time to market and start tomorrow with our API governance? I say no. Sorry very much. What I have is a framework to help you to define framework. I can help you with my framework to define frameworks to define your own framework. And then you will be able to put in place your API governance, but not tomorrow. Sorry very much. The day after tomorrow. Okay, that's the main idea. So what I'm going to talk in all of this talk is I would like you to be aware of the main points from my experience. Of course, the list is far to be exhaustive. There are some points that I have missed. I will really glad to discuss with you about them. If you have them in mind, no problem at all, but I have to make a summary. API governance is so complex most of the time. So let's go to that one. Okay. Okay, so first if we are going to talk about API governance, first thing is, okay, but what that? We already have to, we have to be on the same page about what API governance is, which is not something easy to define, because, okay, let's see later. Then I will advise you to follow a structured approach. Why? Because it will save you a lot of time and pain and resources to rely on the work that other people has already done. That's why I'm here. I'm here to make your life easier. I want you to be happy. So I'm going to share you all my pains. This is a kind of therapy. I will share with you how I approach this kind of business problem to share with you the lessons I have learned, and I expect that will help you, and then we'll see some conclusions. So, what is API governance? Well, I recorded a podcast with Gemma some time ago that was talking about that. You can scan the QR later if you want to watch all the videos, but one approach to API governance is to define the standards. The aim is to try to keep the same rules for all your APIs, or not the same rules, but the ruling for your APIs, because you may have different types of APIs that may be governed in a different way. But the aim of API governance is that you have to know the APIs you have in your ecosystem, but also the rules governing those APIs. That's the key. You have to, not only to define the standards, but also to make that standards mandatory. If that mandatory is what you really want. Because one key thing of API governance is that it should be, I would say, strict, but flexible. So you may have exceptions, of course, but exceptions have to be ruled up. You have to know how to deal with those exceptions, which is part of the governance also. So Arnaud also put put focus on the decision making of API governance. It's not only about the standards I'm going to use in my ecosystem to say, okay, my design principle or my style guide will be that one or another one, but how I'm going to take the decisions. You have to define your workflows from the point that someone from business say, hey, I want to expose those data, guys. And then which information it needs to follow all the workflow until the data is into production, exposed through an API. Even further, when you decide that, okay, nobody is using my APIs, I'm going to decommission the API, or I'm going to decommission that version on API to update another version. So all those processes has to be controlled. Okay? That's the aim of the governance, not only a standardization, but also workflows. That's why the framework I'm proposing later on will be will have I would say 3 layers or 3 levels, which is the strategic one with the highest staff of the company. Governance should be fully aligned with your business strategy. You are not governing your APIs because it's fashion, it's great, it's fun, it's not too fun. It's because you want to achieve your business objectives. That's a strategic layer. Then you have the tactics layer. Okay, I have the strategy, I have my roadmap already defined. Which are the steps I'm going to follow, or which are the tools I need to do that? You will need an API platform, you will need a cloud architecture, or you will need an architecture, you will need to define guidelines, you will need to design an adoption plan and wherever. And then you also have an operational layer, which means how I'm going to deal with the API lifecycle, which tools I'm going to use to manage each of the stages of the API lifecycle, how I'm going to integrate those tools with my API management platform. Okay? Wait, this is not. So the main thing in API governance is to know what you really, 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 really want. I'm not going to dance. Sorry very much. Not now. Okay, so this is the really thing important in API governance. What you really want. For what you want to place an API strategy in your company. How are you going to generate business value from APIs? If you don't have these answers pristine clear, step back, breathe, and then think about it. Because this is complex. This is simple, but it's complex, and that means that it's also expensive and resource intense. So you will spend a lot of resources on that. You will spend a lot of energy on that. So you have to have enough clear what you really, really, really want, which is to improve customer experience. At the end of the way, what we want to do, have more customers, because customers are giving us business, and business means we will have more money, and that's the aim of a company. So you have to put always your customers on the center of your business strategy, but also of your API strategy, and then of your API governance. That's why the API lifecycle I'm proposing has 2 loops. The producing one, which has the stages related with design, modeling, security, and blah, blah, blah. but also the consumption part, which is discovery, development, monetization, also strategy. Okay, I'm not going to spoil myself. Then, what is API governance? Okay, API governance, taking the two definitions I mentioned before, is a mix between technical and not technical. So it's a way of defining the standards that will rule all the APIs on your organization. It's also about the policies you are going to use within your APIs, setting the guidelines at the tactile level, I mentioned before, defining the roles and responsibility in each of the stages of the API lifecycle so that we have all the workflows properly defined so we can track what is going on with our APIs in each of the stages of its lifecycle, especially if there is a problem with your APIs. Yeah, and we have to put also focus on support and training. So given that, I would like you to enjoy and to participate in this. Please scan this QR. It will take you to a poll. And I would like to know your opinion about the former points. No, which are the main challenges for you? I will share the result next week on LinkedIn, so also follow me if you want to be aware of the results, of course. If you don't mind, follow me also. Skip the post and that's all. Okay, are you done? Yeah? Okay, I'm waiting, okay? Okay, so what are the challenges when defining or we're putting an API governance framework strategy in place? The lack of clarity. Why? Because some people begins embracing an API strategy just because my competition does. No, that's your competitor is your competitor, it's not yours. You have to find your motivation, how you are going to put value or to get value from your APIs. Remember the Spy Girls questions. What you really want, no, I'm not going to dance. What you really want, really want. You know, that's the thing. Then API ecosystems are more complex each day. If you attended to my keynote, one of the consequences of the explosion of AA is the explosion of your APIs. Why? Because AA needs data to work. And where are those data? Those data are spread all over the world. So you will need some ways of integrate those data in your ecosystem, in your platform, and APIs are one of the best means to do that. They can act of a single point of contact between your AI or your data and your system. This means that it will be more easy to manage how everything works. That's why the AA era is going to be also the API era or the integrations era. Okay? Another tool, another poll, come on. Which are the best practices for you? I think the questions are right. Yeah, I think that yes. Anyway, I will share the results next week. You're done? Okay. Okay. Then these are the best practices. So when you are embracing an API or you are putting in place an API governance, it's key to centralize your rules. Also to define the exceptions. I told before, can we have exceptions? Of course. How much? Okay, what is clear is that not everything can be an exception. You may have some. What? I'm leaving to your common sense. If you have, I don't know if I have even. But you have to balance. The more exceptions you allow, the more complex will be managing everything. But you have to allow some exceptions. Which exceptions? When the board of director calls you and say, hey, this API should be in production. Okay, no testing, nothing. Everything in production right now. Okay, that sometimes happen. But the idea is your standards should be mandatory, but not always. Your processes should be strictly following the rules you define, but not always. But what you have to do always is to rule the exceptions. Okay, as much as you can, at least. Also, automation plays a key role here. But to automate things, you need to define things properly. Why? Because having everything pristine clear and having all the workflows defined will allow you to take decisions. Some decisions can be automated, others not. But some of them can be automated. But to allow that kind of automation, you have to define very well the decision and the information you will need to take the decision. So if you are able to, I would say, to calculate those flags, you can automate everything. Of course, if your API ecosystem is so high, automation is really key. If your API ecosystem is only with, you only have 3 APIs, you can't do that manually. My advice is not to do so. We are prone to errors. We are humans, not AI. Also errors. You have to deal with these. It's all. My advice will be automate as much as I can. Okay, but with care. Always with care. It doesn't matter if your ecosystem has 2 APIs or 200. Automate as much as I can because you don't know when your ecosystem is going to grow. And probably you will have more APIs than you expect to have. Why? Because people tend to think that only API products or external APIs has to be governed. And what happens with internal APIs? They also have to be governed. You are using those APIs. You have internal customers consuming those APIs. Should we use the same governance policies? Probably not. But at some extent, your internal APIs should be also governed. Okay? And should be also governed in a consistent way than your external APIs. You try to keep coherence in your system. So if you can use the same rules for external APIs or the same governance for external APIs or to internal APIs, it would be great. You don't have duplicates everywhere in the management or in the workflows. Try to keep things simple because they are complex by nature. So if you don't complicate your lives, make things simple. But it's okay. Try to reuse as much as you can. Try to automate as much as you can. Keep things simple always. Okay. Pay special attention to versioning. Okay, this really key thing that APIs are, when IT assets are only one asset, but API can be seen as a double asset. You know, you have the API definition and the API implementation, and both of them should be coupled. So if you put into production one version of your API, it is tied to one version of the backend service that is supporting the API. So the versioning is more complex than in regular backend services or whatever. Pay special attention on that. That means invest a lot of time on handling versions, which not only, I'm not meaning only which versioning scheme you are going to follow. That's another discussion. You can choose, all of them has its pros and its cons, so you can follow, or you can choose the one you want, the one that will make your management easier. But how are you going to deal with changes? How are you going to decommission APIs? Because if you decommission an APIs, you probably will have to decommission the backend service also. Or not. It depends on the nature of the change. But what is important is to know how I can, or how I must do those things. Okay? Okay, so, well, we are going to do an example of why API governance is key. So I will need 3 volunteers, please. Oh, come on, it will be easy. It's very easy. Come on, you only have, okay, come on, here. 1 volunteer more, well, 2 volunteers. Okay, but at least 1 more. Okay, come on. Come on. Okay, thank you very much. Come on, 1 more, va. Please. Va. Okay, I will throw the pen and the 1 button will end. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so you stay here. You stay here. I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. Let me mute the microphone. And then I need another volunteer to act as a business people. Come on, I need here. Oh, come on. Yes, come here. You don't need to draw anything. Just you have 2 minutes to do that. Feel the pressure of business people. You can stay here just for a while. Are you finished? Okay, keep it. Yeah? Yeah, that way. For you, secret till now. Are you finished? Okay. You can sit down. Thank you very much. No, my pleasure. Come on, give an applause to them. And now the winner is... No, not yet. Are they the same? No, they are not exactly the same. They are not exactly the same. Okay. Right? Thank you very much. An applause also. So I ask both of you, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to draw a house. It's not the same house, you know? So this is an API. I can ask them, okay, make an API, but this is not the same. You know, they are pretty much the same, but not the same. With APIs, happens the same. So that's why we need rules to do things. You know, not to raise our expectations, to avoid failures, to avoid misunderstandings. You know, remember, APIs are a kind of contract. You define the operations, the data you need to execute the operations, and how are you going to handle errors. Imagine you take the same idea to mariachis. there wouldn't be divorces. You know, everybody can expect, you know, this is me. You can consume my API, take it or leave it. You know, that's the idea. Not the divorces, the API governance. So that's why we need a structure. How to structure this approach? That way, this is the framework to define framework. I have highlighted here the most important things from my point of view, but of course, we can also discuss if, for example, if this is here or this is here. It's only a set of guidelines. The important thing here is to be aware of what I need to put an API governance in place in my organization. So we have to engage strategy people, also project management in tactics, and also operations delivery. Okay, so following this kind of approach has one advantage, that is, it allows you to put focus, or it allows you to approach each of the level with different levels of granularity. So depending of the point of your API journey you will be, you can put the focus on operations or on tactics or strategy. And so my advice is to use the holistic view, put focus, of course, depending on where you are, more focus in one of the levels, but you have to define the whole levels. Remember the Spiker question: what do you really want? What you really want, really want? That's a strategy. Okay? But it's key to know for what you want your APIs, to define how I'm going to get that thing that I want to get from APIs. Okay? And then here you have the API lifecycle. As I told you, we have the producer part, which is this one. We are mainly focused on how we are going to identify the APIs I need, how I'm going to design the APIs, to model, make the testing, blah, blah, blah. And here is consumption. Why consumption should be, why your end users should be involved in the API lifecycle in some way? Because APIs are made to be consumed. So you can have here the best API of the world, of the universe, but if nobody is going to use it, which is the value of the APIs? It's dead, it's useless. That's the importance of putting always the people or the end user into the center. Okay, but not only the end users, also your developers. Think that I have been a developer for a long time. So if you are stressed, if you are working under stress, or for example, suppose that I have to implement my app on top of an API, but the documentation is bad, or it's very difficult to get the credentials, and don't know. There are a lot of things that can stress you, no? I'm not focused on what I should be really focused, which is delivering value to my end customer. So if I am happy, whichever thing I do with my software will have more, more happiness, more love than if I'm really struggling. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Okay, so you know what I mean, no? So developer experience is also key. Our users in APIs are not only the end user, which is key, but also the developers, because the developers are going to add value on top of my APIs. They will use my APIs to create some innovative services. So let's allow them to get focused in what is really important, which is the end user, making things easier for them. How? Having a really engaging development experience. Documentation up to date, automation, or self-service in getting the credentials, for example. A lot of software development kits with code samples, trying to create a community on top of the APIs, because interaction between people is really amazing. I love it, and I think that it also adds value to your product. All of us loves to be part of a group, at some extent. So feeling that sense of engagement that a community gives you is really, really great. So if you have two APIs, one that has a community that goes for beers and drinks and events or whatever, wow. And another API that nobody is there, which one will you use? I have it clear, that one. Party, I'm Spanish. Okay? That's the idea. So also important, an structured approach allows you to identify the roles involved in each of the stages of the API we mentioned in the former slide. Of course, these roles are generics. Probably in a project, you can identify many more, or you can miss someone, don't know, could be. The important thing is to identify clearly the roles. Why? Because with the roles in mind, you can design your workflows. And in that workflow, for each task of the workflow, you will be able, or you will have to define which is the responsibility of each of those roles. But not also the responsibility, also the tools they have available to accomplish with their responsibility. Okay, so don't do, okay, you have to do that. How? I don't know. No, you have to provide the whole solution. If you give your development teams only the rules, but not the way to follow those rules, your strategy will fail. Because they won't have the focus on the really thing, which is delivering value. They will be struggling, oh, which tool, how can I do that? Which tool? No, you have to provide everything. Not only the rules, also the tool set that can be useful to follow the rules, okay? So the conclusions. The main aim of API governance can be those three, right? So try to engage the whole company in the API governance strategy. It should be fully aligned with your business strategy, because the main aim of the API strategy is to get value from your APIs. So you have to be very aware about that. So also define standards that will give you homogeneity in your whole ecosystem, but also remind that you could have forced to allow some exceptions. If this is the case, rule the exceptions. You have to be able to manage them. And yeah, one of the most important things also is evangelization. You have to schedule an adoption plan. You have to incentivize the API good best practices adoption. You can give a badge or pay holidays in Honolulu. I don't know. Invite me. I will go to Honolulu also. So key point will be those two. Use a framework so that you can define which or who has the responsibility to do what with which tools in each of the stages of the API lifecycle. Yeah, and of course, if you want to measure something, you have to establish the indicators and how you are going to measure that things. And I think that's I know. Remember, that's the important thing of the talk. So instead of remembering me, remember the Spice Girl. It would be, yeah, it would be better. It's easier. What do I do? Yeah, now that's all. So I'd be more than happy to answer to your questions if you have any, just please.
Yeah, maybe I have a question.
Come on, maybe no, you have a question.
Yeah, I have a question.
That's great.
So about the exceptions, sorry.
Yeah?
How do you, let's say, enforce, once you allow some exceptions, how do you enforce that others don't? Because it's a bit childish, but that's how managers can be. Yeah, but he didn't have to do that, and we have to get quite a lot. We work with a lot of legacy systems.
Yeah, well, it depends. One thing that is useful is API scoring, which means, okay, let's suppose you have 3 categories of APIs, A, B, C, D. Each of category has an award or has some requirements that have to be met. The C can be the low level, the A can be the higher level, but the level of the score of the API is public. So, when things are public, you can be ashamed. Okay, he's doing that, I'm doing that, I want to be better. That may work. Also, you can use the score or the scoring to give some, I would say, to measure the priority for business. Different APIs has different business requirement, or they met different business requirement. Depending on the context, you can use those requirements to speed up the development process of each API. But API scoring APIs somewhere and make information public could work. Or for example, some platforms, when you have set the governance rules, some platforms are always continuously checking if they are met or not, and can send a notification to the development team telling, hey, you have 5 warnings and 26 infos. If you don't fix them, your API won't be in production. That kind of things. More questions? No questions? Everything clear? Wow. Okay, then thank you very much. My pleasure.